Good afternoon, Chicago. And for those of you joining us online, good morning, good evening, wherever you may be. You're joining us today for Intune Cloud Native Management, Prepare for AI and Cloud PCs. My name is Rob York. I am a Program Manager Architect on the Intune and Windows Commercial team. And my colleague is?
Hi, everyone. My name is Lior Bella. I am from the business group of Intune, responsible of getting all of you on the cloud.
And Lior literally just told me this is his first time on stage at Ignite. And when I first presented on stage at Ignite, I think in 2016, I took a selfie of me in front of the crowd. And I think Lior would like to do the same. So everybody make a face, put your arms in the air. We're just going to take a break.
So my wife knows why I'm late to dinner. Now let's get to business.
I'll let you start.
OK, slides? Perfect. So I want to take you over what we're going to cover today, just to give you kind of the structure. We have a lot of demos to share. But we definitely want to emphasize how the future looks like. And I give you a hint, it does look really good. Endpoint management is actually moving fast through technology in the past few years, and we have a lot of great developments. We're going to talk about the cloud native, what it enables you. We're also going to talk about what's the next for cloud native, what the benefits out of it. And lastly, we're going to talk to you about the future. But I'm going to give you a hint. The future is now, so no pressure. So let's focus on the vision for cloud native perspective. First of all, we have 3 different types of benefits. One for the user, one for the company, and one for the IT professional. First of all, from a user perspective, imagine you as a user that don't have to deal with tickets. Opening a ticket because you need a password reset. Opening a ticket because your Wi-Fi doesn't work. Opening various random tickets. That will increase your productivity. Adding Copilot to it, hell yeah, it's going to be great. From a company perspective, you focus on productivity, you focus on cost. So from a cloud perspective, we are centralizing all of our solutions around Microsoft Intune. You can manage all of the different platforms. You can manage multiple types of devices, all with Microsoft Intune, and you reduce cost, you increase efficiency, and most importantly, security. And lastly, it's the IT professionals. IT professionals that instead of literally dealing with GPOs all day long and checking the bugs one after another, you focus on the business objective. You focus on the high important hot items, items that needs to be addressed versus dealing with more support tickets versus dealing with more GPOs to update. So these are the 3 key vision benefits for the future. Rob, maybe you can tell us more about Altogether.
We will, but first we're going to play a little game. We called this Debunkers, and I need everybody in the room's help and everybody online. So for those in the room, I'm going to read out a statement, and if you think it is true, you stand up and put your hands on your head. If you think it's false, you can stay seated. For those online, there is a Pubble poll, but I would really love it if you also played along in spirit, so we can all imagine people standing up and staying sat down and blah, 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 blah. So the phrase is, cloud native Windows means complete elimination of on-prem existence. So that's your resources aren't on-prem, your applications aren't on-prem, your users aren't on-prem, and your devices aren't on-prem. So if you think it's true, stand up and put your hands on your head. And if you think it's false, stay sat down. Maybe we should have done this the other way so we could figure out who was being lazy, but OK. Everybody thinks it's false. Lior?
It's busted. All debunk. It's false, ladies. It's false.
Okay. Should we have another round?
Yes.
Cloud native is just for Windows. So again, if you think it's true, stand up with your hands on your head. If you think it's false, stay seated. Apparently online, it's kind of 50-50. It's just a load of lazy people in the room. I get that. It's after lunch. Those kofta were really good. Oh, are we good? Lior, the answer is?
False. You were all right. You're getting a sticker.
Also false. So we've talked about it a few times. I've used the word cloud native. If you were in Jason's session earlier, you'll have heard him say it. If you were in Michael's session earlier, you probably heard him say it. So what is cloud native? Cloud native are devices that are joined to Microsoft Entra, and they are managed by Intune. And this goes for all of your devices, whether they're Windows, Mac, iOS and iPad, Android, Linux. Intune manages them all, and you should aspire for them all to be cloud native, managed from Intune. And you can manage them from anywhere to anywhere over the internet. For your Windows devices, that cloud-native vision is likely going to mean some kind of transformation or change. But what that brings you is a single pane of glass. So the way to go through this is what I like to call my 3 simple steps. And those air quotes are to signify that I call them simple, but they may be a multi-year journey for most, if not all, customers. And the way to get to the cloud and to get to that vision of cloud native is to, first of all, cloud enable all your workloads. Be managing everything from Intune, from the Intune portal. For your existing Windows devices, enroll them into co-management, join them to hybrid Entra join. Again, they then become managed from the Intune portal alongside those cloud native devices. And then really the cloud native bit comes in for your new devices. For your new devices, deploy them with Windows Autopilot into that cloud-native state. Deploy them as Intune managed, Entra ID joined. And you'll note that the co-managed and the hybrid states are those transitory states in the middle that get you that single pane of glass until you refresh those devices into cloud-native. And we don't recommend that you proactively convert devices from step 2 into step 3. Leave them in that transitory state. As they get refreshed, they will just simply move over with the device that replaces them.
Well, so we talked about the vision, we talked about how to get to cloud native, but why? You are comfortable with what you have right now, right? The on-prem servers connect to the 56.6 KBS. With that being said, we want to focus on why cloud native and what it's truly benefit. And with this one, we're looking at like 4 different pillars that we're going to be focusing throughout the session. First of all, as I mentioned before, simpler workflow. Instead of using multiple tools to manage multiple sets of devices, if it's a mobile, Mac, Android, Windows, you have everything centralized. That means that when you look at the reporting, that's when you push configurations, you're pushing for all of the devices. You don't need to have a special iOS person versus a special Windows person, all in centralized place allocation, which means that it's reducing the help desk calls and translate to lower support cost. From a user experience, as I mentioned, you cover all of the type of devices and all of the type of silicons. With that being said, users do get a great experience in the sense that you can monitor and fix everything remotely. It does reduce boot time, and of course, it helps with less downtime, because some things are just so simple to fix from your point of view, but not from the user point of view. And that's what Intune does with Cloud Manage. From a security perspective, besides the fact that it's one under the security umbrella of Microsoft, that everything is integrated, we talk about conditional access policies. We talk about apps and security settings. We talk about least privilege. We want to reduce the level of privilege, which we're going to cover later on today. Updates. We want to remove unsecure codes and devices. And we really want to make sure that there is a real-time integration across Entra, Defender. So if there is any signal that you need, everything is synced on the same time. And lastly, it's more flexible. More flexible, it means no need to use VPN to connect and to manage the device. It's a big difference. Remember the old days that we had to connect to VPNs? So this is a not prereq anymore, which means that you can work from everywhere. I know it sounds like 3-4 years ago, but it's still valid. And regardless of the OS, and imagine that you're just relaxing in Hawaii, drinking something, and you get a phone call. My password doesn't work. You can fix it remotely, all the way from Hawaii, while your team is sitting in Chicago. What else do you need? Oops.
This is why we didn't let Lior have the clicker. And you don't have to take his word for it. Here we have a quote from Craig Nelson at HPE, one of the end-user compute leads, and he's talking about the improvements to the first-time setup. And this is a huge benefit of Autopilot. Who in the room is using Autopilot today? Keep your hand up if it's in a cloud-native state. Make me happy. OK, some went down. We can work on that together. That's fine. But the first-time setup, and it drops to 35 minutes or less in some cases. And this is a trend we see across all of our customers as they make that transition to cloud-native and to Windows Autopilot. Coupled with that, if that wasn't enough, a 98% customer satisfaction score. That's an all-time high for them, and that doesn't mean that two people don't like it. It just means that they're not in that highly satisfied category. So the benefits there of the end-user experience of being able to provision a device quickly and efficiently and get to the point where they're productive, hugely beneficial and hugely part of retaining and encouraging staff and talent retention. And then some other things around the performance. We consistently see reduction in boot times as you move away from GPO and painful logon scripts and processing. End-user productivity improvements elsewhere due to the improvements in the efficiency of updates. And we see a huge number of help desk reduction tickets. I think it's like 60% is what we see in the numbers that we hear back from our customers.
Well, now we will look at some real-world outcomes for cloud-native management and how we can make it. So let's make it real. Let's look again at 3 key pillars that we're going to focus the rest of the presentation on that allow you to kind of associate with it. So first of all, we're talking about more security in more places, lower total cost of ownership, and of course, productivity for the end user, and of course, for the IT pros. So let's start with another quote, because we follow the zero trust methodology over here. We're going to prove you that our customers are saying what we're saying. So with that being said, we are looking for a quote from an IT director from Alabama State Court. This is a way for the court system that can enforce the security policies of how to access the data, how to access the machines. With that being said, everything gets faster and centralized. But most importantly, we are preventing unauthorized users from accessing those files. We want to make sure that, especially in a court case or any other thing from a medical perspective, you want to make sure that no one that is not supposed to access the files. So we have conditional access, we have secure files, we have all of our security solutions, and of course our secure devices. So even if the device is being lost, it's always secure, and you can wipe it remotely from an Intune perspective. Rob?
If you're managing mobile devices in Intune already, you will probably be familiar with, if not using conditional access on your mobile devices. But to me, conditional access is a really powerful net add that you get by going through that journey of those 3 simple steps that I talked about earlier. So here we're going to look at that powerful thing of enabling conditional access on your Windows estate by virtue of getting them connected to the cloud and on that journey to cloud native. So here what we're going to do is we're going to create a conditional access policy targeted to our Windows devices. So I'm going to go in, and I'm going to create a new policy. I'm going to give it a really imaginative name, given that we're at Ignite and it's a demo. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to specify the minimum patch version that I require my Windows devices to have in my environment in order to get access to corporate resources. Now, we're most of the way through November, so I'm going to set it to the October Patch Tuesday release. I'm going to deploy that. I'm going to immediately say out of compliance for devices that don't meet it. Not necessarily best practice, but that's what we're doing here. And then I'm going to deploy that to my estate. And what that now means is that when my users are ignoring all of those prompts, saying, oh, I don't want the update, oh, I need to do something, I'm not going to take that just yet, and they're deferring and they're deferring and they're deferring, they're going to get to the point where the conditional access policy goes, fine, you don't get email, you don't get Teams, and you're going to interrupt them to make them go do that thing and drive them to do the right thing to protect their data and their device so that it achieves what you need in the organization. And the thing I think really powerful here is I bet most people in this room are familiar with that monthly dance where you're chasing the patch compliance rates and you're having to track why we're at 95, not 96%. Now you've just enabled your end users to be part of that and encouraging them to do the right thing by putting it into their flow. Time for another
Oh my God,
debunkers.
best time of the session.
Okay. Who's familiar with the term zero trust? Great. There's a session on Friday if you want to go learn more. Here it's a slightly different format. So we've got A and B. There's no true and false. You just have to choose which one you think is the correct statement. So A, and you stand up if you think this is true, cloud native enables zero trust. B, is it the other way around? Zero trust enables cloud native. You can stay seated. Give you a second to process the slightly different format for this one. Again, those online, you can play along in the Pubble. Please play along by standing up if you think it's A. It brings me joy to think that there's people in various places around the world stood up. So stand up if you think cloud native enables zero trust. Stay seated. There's people going up and down, and this is really funny from up here. Are we good on the Pubble? Great. Okay. And the answer is
both.
they're both true.
So you're both right. But you guys are welcome. If you stand up, we gave you some exercise. So with that being said, we talked about cloud native, but let's connect the dot to zero trust because we trust no one. The idea around it is that we really want to verify the identity of each device. We want to verify every device and every identity. We want to assume breach. We never trust anyone. We always want to ensure that our environment is secure. All of the resources should stay protected. What does it mean? It means that we're going to reduce the privilege of users and will not let them install apps that they're not supposed to and introduce a risk to our environment. And lastly, we always, like I said, assume breach. You want to make sure that every task that is being done, every device that is being logged into to your ecosystem, and every user that logs into the ecosystem is verified. Those are the places that you can introduce bad actors to your environment, and therefore, that's why it's so important to connect cloud native and zero trust. They are pretty much one. Without cloud native, zero trust will be very, very, very difficult. But with that being said, let's give Rob an opportunity to kind of share with us what are the features that we can use for zero trust.
Who in the room manages devices? Hands up. I'm going to assume it's most of you. Okay. The good news here is that you can go make friends with your security team and say, hey, this cloud native thing that we need to go do is going to meaningfully help you. And if you're a security professional in the room, hey, guess what? The device management people are now your best friends because they can help you move to that zero trust model as well. And two of the ways that you can do that in cloud native are something that I think a lot of IT professionals have tried to achieve for many years. Back when I was in the field, we used to talk about it with customers all the time as they're trying to do something that a lot of customers still haven't achieved to this day, and that's revocation of local admin rights on the devices out there in the wild. And cloud native allows, or there's two ways that you can get to this least privilege model. The first one is Cloud LAPS, or Local Admin Password Solution, which is a bit of a mouthful, so I'll use LAPS for the rest of this. But Cloud LAPS enables you to start to manage and revoke the need for having either a single password across all your devices, which is bad, or having a Excel spreadsheet with your passwords in. Cloud LAPS allows you to have a managed, centralized database of passwords that your admins and your help desk operators can use in the course of their daily activities when they need to elevate and get access to a device, but they only have it when they need it. And it's also then the password can be rotated automatically when they finish so that password doesn't persist, maintaining that non-admin for your help desk and your support staff. And then endpoint privilege management, which is an Intune feature, goes even further and allows you to create granular rules for managing elevation on your end users themselves. And what this might mean is that you have users that have to have local admin today because they have an app that only runs in a privileged scenario. EPM will allow you to create a rule that says app foo is allowed to elevate, but you're now able to revoke that user from needing that local admin access. Might be more generic. It might be that you allow your users to install software or install printers, or there might be certain software or printers, and you can create granular rules that will allow that elevation automatically, or you can have a catch-all that sends it to an admin for review to then send back that approval request after the fact. Two really powerful things that you get by enabling cloud native.
So if you look at the Hanji quote, which was covered also in our earlier intern session with Jason Rojak and Eugenie, we want to talk about less support tickets. So the idea of adding automation, the idea of adding processes that are run by the cloud allows you to do a lot of more self-service capabilities, proactive remediation in some scenarios, and in this scenario, actually remove the amount of time that end users are waiting for any response, any support ticket, and they can solve it mainly themselves, especially around the passwords. So this is what we're seeing over here from a cost of ownership, because yes, we are reducing massive amount of tickets on our support team and our IT pros, but at the same time, we are reducing a massive amount of cost around the supports, which allow us to utilize those resources to do other stuff with the organization. So if we are moving next, we're going to talk a little bit about compliance with Autopatch. So before we go to the demo, I just want to explain something. You're all familiar with deployment rings. We know very well that we need to use deployment rings. So we don't want to deploy everything at the same time. That we know. On top of it, we have another feature at Autopatch that's called Autopatch Groups. Autopatch Groups is something like smart groups in a sense of allowing you to allocate users to specific sets of groups. So for example, I'm going to give you a scenario. We have our marketing team and we have our accounting team. Our accounting team has a special line of business app that we are worried that the latest update might cause any issue, especially around drivers. What we do, we are making sure that the first 10% of the users that receive the deployment, we have from the accounting team. So even if something breaks or doesn't work so well, 90% of the accounting team is safe. So we know it and we get the insights quickly. So we have the deployment groups and we have the Autopatch groups. With that being said, let's go to the demo. With my virtual mouse, I will create a new Autopatch groups. So we're going to go to Autopatch groups, and we're pretty much going to name it, let's say, a demo? Compliance, yes. And after we're creating this, we are allocating the group to the ring. And with that, we're going to choose our marketing team. I forgot what we have. Yes, we have the compliance team. And we're going to allocate the compliance team, and then we're going to create two separate groups. The first 10% that will receive the first deployment of the update, and the second is the 90% that will receive the rest. So after we know that those updates are working and doesn't cause any problems, then we are pretty much a defer period and a grace period for each one of the rings. So we want to make sure that the users don't keep postponing the updates. We want to make sure that they are being enforced to get the update and install the update and restart the machine, unless they have something else that Rob's going to talk about later. But with that being said, we want to make sure that we're enforcing it, increasing security, especially around 0 days and quality updates, and ensuring that the endpoints are fully secure and no user keep pushing it just because they don't want to deal with the update.
A little bit more audience participation time. You're going to sense a theme with me. Hands up if you've ever deferred or put off taking an update because you needed to get on with something else. Come on, Leo, let's be honest.
Okay.
Thank you. Keep your hand up if you had to eventually have it forced on you by the management tool that you probably run yourselves. Yeah, thought so. That little pending orange dot of doom, we've all been there. Especially in the run-up to a meeting, it can be very stressful, and it can be very interrupting. Who saw the hot patch announcement earlier this week? Great, that's most of you. You can go back and you can look at the general sessions, and it's been mentioned in a couple of different sessions. But essentially what hot patch is it is the ability to install updates on Windows 11 devices without the need for a reboot. Now, first of all, this massively increases the security posture because you're not waiting for that pending reboot when the update will be installed. But it's also hugely beneficial to the end user because they're not having to deal with the pending orange dot of doom. And here we have a demo of that experience side by side. So on the right, Alan is going to get the new hot patch experience, and Irvin on the left is going to get the normal previous experience without hot patch. And we're going to see the update install, download, then install. And Alan is good to go. He's even going to get a little green message that says, hey, we did this without the need for a reboot. Irvin, on the other hand, orange pending dot of doom, and he's interrupted. He can't join that meeting. He's going to miss out on Pizza Friday because he didn't know about it. Sad times. But you can see the huge benefit of moving to hot patch so that you can not only increase the security posture, get secure faster on your devices, but also it really meaningfully improves the experience of your users.
So when am I going to have a chance to drink coffee if I don't need to restart my machine?
That's a fair point.
Yeah.
So we've talked a lot about the time improvements and the time savings for admins and IT and end users alike. And this is another quote from Paul at Westpac that talks about the improvements they saw from moving to AutoPatch that Lior just demoed. They saw deployment time of updates go from 90 minutes down to 25. Now, that's a huge saving just for the admin in terms of the management and the maintenance, but when they scale that across their 40,000 users, that's a huge amount of productivity time returned to the end users to go do banking, I think Westpac is. So being able to go do the thing that the business does, not having to wait for those installs and those reboots to take place.
Well, I get excited about a lot of things at Intune. Yeah, you can find me weird, but the one that I'm truly excited about, and we just made an announcement yesterday, is device inventory. So device inventory and the ability to pull device attributes from the machine. You don't have to wait the 8 hours connection times or whenever the device go up online, because in this scenario, we have an agent that sits on the machine itself and harvesting all of the data. And as soon as the computer connects to the internet, it's pushing all of the data attributes directly to Intune. So it's a kind of a different way that we are using for device inventory, which also apply for other solutions. With that being said, of course, you have to click faster, is that we're also doing a Mac management. Now, this scenario specifically is an iPhone. This is something not available GA yet. We are announcing it that it's coming out next year, hopefully early next year if my engineers are here, and we're going to make sure that we are bringing those capabilities. The scenario over here is we have employees that are working across 2 different time zones in 2 different countries, and they need 2 separate phone lines when they are in Europe and when they are in the United States. What we did over here is that we actually use device inventory to identify which devices has 2 slots of SIM cards, so we actually can give those employees a second SIM card or an eSIM in order to be able to use those overseas as well and save some money for the company. So this is a brand new capability. So as I mentioned, device inventory will expand from Windows, which is available in GA in the next few weeks, to iOS and Android and Mac in the coming months. So that's something to look forward to. But, yeah, do it, because I'm excited for it. But with that being said, there are a few more cool things, and I'm going to let Rob cover it.
Something else also announced this week, multiple device query. And I'm sure everybody in the room is familiar with that tap on the shoulder, or maybe it's an IM or an email, of today's latest random request from someone, hey, can you find this out about the estate? And with multiple device query, we can go enable that so that you can go answer those questions about, hey, what about this in our estate? Hey, has this happened? And what we're going to show here is then integration with Copilot to help not only generate the query, but go find that information. And what we're going to do here is we're going to look for devices running a particular update in Windows that we know is interacting badly with a line of business app. And we're going to go remediate against that.
That's what's happened when you let this guy control.
Let's try again. There we go. So here I'm going to go into the device query page, and I'm not that great at writing code, so I'm going to ask Copilot in natural English language, hey, can you generate me a query with devices running this particular Windows Update version? And I'm going to specify the properties that I want back, because I know I want machine name and I want the version, so I'm going to specify what it wants. It returns the query. It gives me a chance to review it and go, yep, that looks exactly what I want. And then I can say populate and run. And now that's gone and pulled back the list of those devices. A little bit of finagling to the query, and I'm going to look for those devices that have the update that have updated recently. That returns 3 devices. And now, and this is coming soon, the ability to run device actions against that information. So we're not just copy-pasting and looking at the list. We're going to select those devices, select device actions, and run a remediation script against those devices to go fix the issue that we were looking for. So pulling together not just the power of the cloud to make your lives easier, but also pulling in Copilot to make it even easier because you don't have to remember the query. It's just going to help you go through and guide you through that process and then give you an actionable list of devices on the back end.
And if you have, can you go back?
Do I not get applause? I got a whistle, but I'll...
Yeah. Can you go back one slide? If you didn't try KQL, by the way, it's not as the easiest language ever. So totally recommend to use Copilot for that. Really, really, really good benefits, the ability to look at multiple Windows devices at once. The next one of don't trust Rob and Leo, trust the customers, is Audi. I hope that you trust Audi. Definitely, they are talking to us, and they talk to us about productivity and end users. So what they talk to us is about the ability to save effort on manual processes. Now, when we talk about manual processes, the easiest one that we can talk about is what you just saw with Autopatch. Who remembers Patch Tuesday? Yeah. Who likes Patch Tuesday?
1 or 2.
Okay, we have 2 people here that we're going to have to talk to later. With that being said, Patch Tuesday is pretty much a manual process. You have the deployments, you have to test the device, you have to test the updates, you have the drivers, you have your firmware, you have all of the fun stuff, and you start deploying it, and it's stressful. You drink a lot of coffee at night, and of course, then you have the tickets. But with that being said, what we did over here with Autopatch, we automated all of those capabilities. So Autopatch is built within Microsoft Intune, and everything is automated. There is a deployment rings, there is the time that each update needs to happen from the moment that it was released, so you can schedule a different times for quality versus features, and make sure that everything is up to date. The approach that we are taking is instead of sweating so much and stressing out about Patch Tuesday, you just chill, watch the reports on Intune, and make sure that everything is working right. Now, we know that not everything is going to work right, but you are able, as an IT pro, to go and address specific devices and specific users that have challenges with, instead of monitoring the whole ecosystem. Okay, Rob, next to you.
We have another demo. We've talked a lot about Windows. This isn't just a Windows session. So let's have a look at some Mac improvements that we've also announced recently. So single sign-on and passwords in general, real problem, real security risk, having passwords being used, being entered, opportunity for phishing attempts and everything else. What you can do with your Mac devices using Passkey is implement single sign-on that is akin to Windows Hello for Business on your Windows devices so that your users never have to enter their passwords. Drop ship them their new Mac device, they go through DEP, they log in, and it goes, hey, this device is managed, and it prompts them to sign in through Authenticator using a QR code. So let's have a look how we would set that up. First of all, let's set it up. And we have a couple of different options for configuring how authentication works, but we're going to specify the user secure enclave. We're going to review the settings, and we're going to save that. And now, from the end user side, when they go through the provisioning, they're going to be prompted to sign in. They're going to sign in using their authenticator, scan the QR code, and they are now configured for single sign-on in all of their enterprise applications, all of their data, all of their Teams meetings. 1 or 2 Mac users in the room, I see. It doesn't impact their local account for logging onto the device, but they will never have to enter their password. They get that single sign-on, that secure experience for enterprise authentication. So we've talked about devices. Now let's talk a little bit about the cloud. And before that, it's another round of debunkers. Okay, we're back to true false this time. Again, play along at home in the puddle. Please play along by standing up or standing up and putting your hands on your head. Slightly different way around this time. So, ARM64 devices. Who's familiar with ARM64? Who's seen the Copilot Plus PCs? Who's been down to the hub and seen the Copilot Plus PCs there? They're super sleek. The battery life is amazing. I have one. I use it most of the time on a dock. This week has been a great experience for me to see the battery life on it. I get to the end of the day and I'm still at like 60%. The battery life is just phenomenal on those devices. The question is, ARM64 needs a new device management strategy in my organization. If you think it's true, you get to stay seated this time. If you think it's false, stand up with your hands on your head.
I have to take a picture. I have to take a picture of it.
I mean, we've actually got them stood up, which is nice.
Yeah.
Andy, how are we doing on the poll? Okay.
Should I make the drums?
Drums.
Oh my God, my hands are like.
It is false.
It is false, and we're going to cover it in a second. So we talk about cross-plat from an operating system perspective, but let's talk about cross-platform silicon diversity. Only a few months ago, I attended a Workplace Ninja in Switzerland, and we had a customer that talked to us at the Copilot Plus PC and said, we are waiting a little bit longer because we are an X, not ARM, user. So we want to wait, and because this is all of our infrastructure. With that being said, I can tell you from now that all of our devices, for Copilot Plus devices using ARM, Intune will develop and support ARM devices moving forward to all of the capabilities that we are developing now moving forward. So you don't have to wait. You don't have to wait to adopt those new devices because with the NPUs, it's pretty cool, to be honest with you. So a lot of great benefits. The battery life is definitely amazing. I'm not saying change from any other processor or silicon that you're currently using, but just know that you have more options and more diversity across the silicon in your organization. If you're moving forward, we also talk about the next gen virtual devices. Who is here using Windows 365? Wow, that's amazing. So Windows 365, I'm going to tell you a secret. It's Windows. It's in the cloud, but it's exactly the same. So it means that when you manage it exactly the same way that you are managing your other devices. You don't need a new skill set. You don't need to train. You don't need to do anything. You can just read our documents and watch maybe a demo, and everything's going to be fine. You do the same patch management. You do the same management, the same policies, everything. It's actually even simpler than a regular on-prem device. So definitely that's something that you should look into the Windows 365. One of my favorite things around it is the ability to, of course, Rob is moving fast, is the ability to upscale and downscale the capabilities of the device whenever you need. So if you need GPUs, or if you need a faster processors or more memory, you are able to upgrade and downgrade as needed. Now, make it real, Rob.
I was just trying to hurry you along. So another customer quote that, again, don't take Rob and Leo's word for it. So BKW is a Swiss energy company. They provide infrastructure and electricity across Switzerland, and they recently moved to Windows 365. And there's a theme here, you can tell, about saving time, giving you as the admin time back to go do way more interesting things and help the business rather than the mundane day-to-day process that I'm sure you spend most of your time doing. But here it's quantified their provisioning time. So they were able to provision 350 end users onto the Windows 365 solution in 20 minutes. And that is scalable, whether they're deploying 2 or whether they're deploying 2,000. And before, those 350 would have taken them up to 4 hours for that deployment. And as Leo says, you can then scale up and down with business needs. Hugely powerful, being able to go deploy those. And let's have a look at what that looks like, Leo.
Demo. So as you can see, when one of us says something, the other one has to prove it right. So let's go over the deployment of Windows 365 device. That's so easy. You go on provisioning, you just create a policy, and you create a policy for this specific scenario. Oh, marketing, you see? And we are choosing, we want to make sure that we choose the hosted network. And which country do you feel like? Where do you feel like living today?
Europe.
Europe, that's it. OK, let's do that. And we're going to select all of the stuff and the single sign-on. We're going to choose what image we want with the Windows 11 plus Microsoft 365 24H2. Make the settings, choose the auto-patch groups that we saw in the previous demo. So we choose Contasa Marketing over here. We are doing next, assigning the group that we want to deploy, as we talked about before. And create. Well, that was easy, right?
How many clicks would you say that was?
I didn't count.
4?
I think
4
it was
clicks.
negative.
OK. We've talked already about the cloud benefit and Copilot benefit, how it can improve and return time to you to go do things. Let's have another look at how Copilot can do that in the auto-patch setting. So here, I want to get some information about a recent Windows 11 update. So I go into Copilot, and I ask it, tell me information about the latest update for my group VIP users. And because it knows the context of Intune, and it knows the context of the deployment, and it knows the context of that group, Copilot is able to reason over all of the information that it has in the various systems, and it generates me a nice verbose information response of all of the devices and all of the updates that have processed within that particular group. And when you see in a second, it's going to come back, and it's going to be a bunch of information that you have to go digest. But what we can now do is we can ask it to summarize it in a form that we can now send. That's what we want to do. We want to send an email to our help desk operators so that they have the context of that VIP rollout. We're going to ask it to give it as in an email. And again, it's going to go reprocess that. It's going to reason over it, and it's going to give us a response in that format that we asked for. And I can now simply review it, make sure it's accurate, copy it into my email, and send it to that group that I want to send it to. And if you saw our video, Lior was really keen for one more thing. So I think it's about that time in the presentation where I allow Lior to do one more thing.
So you saw it already with Satya put it on stage, but this is a device that we're truly, truly excited for. This is the size. It's that tiny. It's that nice. I'm going to put it over here. And by the way, it's managed by Intune. So with this perspective, we want to make sure that you understand that this is all you need moving forward. It runs Windows 365 directly to the cloud. You manage all of it with Microsoft Intune, so you don't need to create anything new. You're going to see this device as any other device that you see in Intune, and you are able to, again, upscale, downscale this device. So this device can have multiple graphic cards, and it can have like a basic amount of memory. It all depends on what you are looking to do based on the time of the month. So if you didn't get a chance to look into it, absolutely recommend you to go look into it, and the price is actually pretty sweet.
So Lior, what are the takeaways from today's session?
Well, we talk a lot, I know, I apologize. But if you had to leave the session today in 1 minute and 33 seconds, based on the timer, and you had to take 3 key takeaways. First key takeaway, Intune is a cross-plat. So Mac, Android, iOS, Linux, Windows, Intune. Also, ARM, Intel, AMD.
All of your devices, one portal. Second thing, remember my 3 simple steps? They're relatively simple, I promise. They just take a little bit of time. So those 3 steps are cloud enable all your workloads, enroll your existing devices into hybrid enter-join and co-management, and deploy new devices as cloud native. And this all builds up to being ready for the future. All of that data into the cloud, all of the platforms into the cloud, allow you to benefit from all of the things and more that we're going to go build of Copilot scenarios, new scenarios to simplify the management experience, are all going to be in the cloud, in Intune, on those cloud-native devices. That's the place to be.
So next sessions, we have a bunch of Intune sessions that we truly recommend you to attend. So it was a session that we actually had earlier today. It's going to be available by tomorrow, I believe, on recording. We have Transform Your End-User Computing with Windows 365 and Intune tomorrow. And we also have Enhanced IT Expertise with Copilot, which is the Intune Copilot. So highly recommend to attend. Thank you all. And please give us feedback because we're really keen to provide you with the greatest. Thank you all. Appreciate it.
Thank you very much, everyone.